Live.
And we are live.
Awesome. Sweet. Okay. So BZ just came for the float, so we can kick him out.
Yeah, get him out of here.
All right. Hey everyone, whether you're watching live or watching this after the fact, um, this is the first episode of a kind of series that Jacob and I have been discussing on doing, which is kind of walking people through building a whole application from scratch. This is not your average, like 30-minute tutorial and you're done type of thing. This is going to go over several episodes, and the goal is to actually build the thing for real, right? Have it be a finished production, final thing ready to go, and you're gonna join us and help us shape it. And ideally, we'll also get help you know, from everyone watching. If you want to jump in and contribute as we're building it, week in, week out, uh, you're more than welcome. The way that we're thinking of structuring this to keep the actual meeting, so we're going to meet every Tuesday at this time. To keep the meeting relatively light, we don't want to do live coding, or we don't want to do much live coding during this meeting necessarily. What we want to use it for is to recap what's been done the past week, recap, or maybe brainstorm together what goals we have for the following week. And, it would be great to have discussions, to have people contributing, but not just code, but also ideas, features, and just general questions. This is obviously an educational series, right? So, of course, the goal is to come out with a finished application, but it's the journey along the way that counts, not so much the final product, even though the final product is going to be hopefully really nice as well. Jacob, do you want to say anything? Maybe we should introduce ourselves just in case people are randomly joining and have no idea who we are.
Yeah, sure. I do want to add a quick thing. I think Andrea is very right when he says that, this is really about the journey and not so much the end reward. I think part of the like vibe of this series that it's going to be like a little rough sometimes in the sense that it's not going to be super planned out and super, we're not going to have done a ton of prep beforehand. It's more like we're coming in here, we're going to, really show you what we're thinking through, because part of this is not just how to code, but how to like architect your platform, how to think about what you want to create. So you're going to get a lot of that in this series as well, especially today when we're live thinking about how we're going to architect a platform like this. Um, so yeah, I guess without further ado, I'm Jacob. Um, I'm just a smart contract developer on Flow, and also run the Emerald City community. And we have Andrea here. Andrea.
Who's muted and
Who's muted.
created an awkward silence. Yeah, and hi, I'm Andrea. I am a dev advocate on the Flow team, and yeah, also participating a lot in Emerald City, and looking forward to building this amazing app. So,
Yeah. And also for added context, it's kind of an awesome pair we have here, because we also built Float together in the past. So when it was like, I think from January to March or from like February to April or something,
yep,
Andrea and I tag teamed, and we built the Flow platform where he was doing a lot of like the front end stuff and I was doing a lot of the contract stuff. So yeah, now we're back at it again to build
we're
Mirror
back
on
at it
Flow.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and hopefully it won't just be a duo. It'll be a group effort. I see some Titans in here, people like Lamford, people like everyone but BZ, essentially. Uh, so looking forward to everyone helping out. No, I'm just kidding. I love you too, BZ. You're also a Titan. Cool.
Also,
Okay, should we maybe start talking a little bit about what the heck we're trying to build?
yeah.
Sweet. So everyone can see my screen, right? And if I change tabs, yes, cool. So we were thinking, right? A lot of people in the Flow community like to create content, whether it be technical content, whether it be and non-technical content. And we talk a lot about Web3, but if we create that content on Web2 platforms, then we're not really doing what we preach, right? So why don't we create a platform where we can create content on chain? And the great thing about Flow is due to its architecture, it has a multi-node architecture where different parts of the transaction lifecycle are managed by different types of nodes, meaning that the execution of the smart contract is managed by, let's say, more beefy machines, which are called execution nodes, and the consensus part is done by consensus nodes, which can be much lighter, and therefore you don't need to have the same node type and have that node try to do everything. Another peculiarity of Flow is thanks to this scalable model, storage on Flow is relatively cheap. So we can actually talk here, Flow storage chain, just add that. Here we have a little bit of data on storage on Flow, and you can see that we can store more or less 100 megabytes as long as our account has one flow, right? Which is a lot of space, considering that one flow right now is around $1 to $2. Now, why am I looking at space here, especially when it comes to accounts? Because Flow has another unique property where any resource that we create is stored in the account, or can be stored in the account that creates it. So if I were to create, and I'm thinking, and Jacob, like this is still up for discussion, but I think when we create posts in our brand new amazing blogging platform, which is going to be on chain, I think it would be cool if when I create something, right, and I create a piece of content, it gets stored on my account. So it's actually, I have full ownership of it. People can still read it, people can still access it, but it won't be stored in a centralized smart contract like it would on other blockchains.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's sort of what I was thinking as well. It would be like an asset, or I guess we call it a resource that gets stored in the author's account.
Yeah, exactly. And just a little bit about resources, just really quickly. These are special types in Cadence, which is the language that we're going to write the smart contract in, and also special types for Flow as a whole, where the resources that we so they're special variables, they're special objects in the Cadence code that are special in the sense that they can't be duplicated and they can't be lost accidentally. So usually when we mint something that is a unique asset, whether it be a blog post or whether it be an NFT, whether it be a token, whatever, that's usually going to be a resource. And we have all these built-in guardrails that's going to help us avoid foot guns and avoid any type of mistake that in a language, for example, like Solidity, is a lot easier to make, right? Because you're just changing state in a centralized smart contract, and if you accidentally change that state, there's no guardrails at the language level that are actually going to help you notice it. So I think we can kind of skip a lot of the theory. I know a lot of you here already know a lot about Flow. I'm just trying to keep it, or give a little bit of an explanation just in case there's new people watching, or new people will watch once it's uploaded, and we can keep it as inclusive as possible. Cool. All right. So first of all, are there any questions while we're here?
No
No,
questions
just
for me.
comments and memes. Great.
Comments
Sweet.
and memes.
Awesome. All right. I guess we can start kind of scoping what we're going to build, right? And there's already an existing on-chain blogging platform that we're definitely going to take inspiration from, right? We're going to make it different. We're going to have our own unique flow, uniqueness to it, but it's useless to reinvent the wheel from scratch. Let's look at the lay of the land and let's see what things we like, what things we don't like, what things we want to improve, and what things could work even better on Flow thanks to Flow's unique properties. So what we've been kind of sharing in the announcements is this platform called Mirror.xyz, which is pretty cool. you essentially have, it's a bit like Medium, right? It's like a Web3 version of Medium. You have an account, which is via a crypto wallet, and you publish content which gets stored on Arweave, which is a decentralized storage protocol. And yeah, um, you can you can follow authors. You can, I think, also tip authors. Um, you can look through it here, but like if we look at an example, finance DAOs as see here you have like the author, which can be multiple authors, by the way, because it makes sense that some things can be co-created. There's a date, title, content, which is usually just JSON that's stored in Arweave, and there should be a link somewhere. Yeah, here if we go to the Arweave transaction, you'll see that this is the actual content of the blog post, right? So we have content, which is the body, the timestamp, the title, and all metadata regarding authorship and metadata like media assets, owner, price, etc. Now, what I think is also interesting, and Jacob, I'll also let you jump in here, is kind of the Web3 native mechanics that can be added to a blogging platform since we're creating it from scratch. And Mirror.xyz has something like this already, so you can collect an entry, and the first people to collect an entry on Mirror.xyz get something, right? It's not really important what happens on Mirror.xyz because we're just going to be kind of loosely taking inspiration from it, but we're going to build it pretty much custom and from scratch. But what I'm trying to kind of get at is, given that we're building it from scratch, right, and we're building it on chain, there's a lot of unique characteristics and unique dynamics that we can add to a regular blogging platform to make it a bit more engaging and a bit more Web3 native.
Yeah,
So Jacob and I have been talking about this. Yeah, Jacob, I'll let you jump in.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think this is definitely an area where we're looking for some feedback or people to jump in because like Andrea was saying once you have something on chain, there's a lot of interesting dynamics we can introduce, like collecting it or paying the creator or we were even discussing like shared ownership of that blog and anytime that someone has a share of that ownership, if someone tips the article, it gets distributed among the shareholders, right? So there's a lot of interesting like DeFi mechanics we can do. And I'm definitely curious to know if there's anyone in the audience that has any unique ideas about how to do something like that. And while you're thinking about this, this also just from a technical perspective, my mind immediately starts thinking, is this going to be an NFT, right? Because when we start writing the contract, of course, we'll have a resource like Andrea was describing is almost like an asset that gets stored in your account. But we should decide whether or not that asset is an official Flow NFT. Of course, it'd be cool to call it an NFT, but remember that once you do that in code, there's a lot of things that come with that. There's a lot of baggage, right? It's like, would you be able to sell that on third-party marketplaces? Would you be able to list that in your wallet, right? Like there's a lot of interesting things that come along with something being called an NFT. So we should start thinking about whether or not we want to make it an NFT, right? And what that means.
Yeah. Um, yeah, exactly. So maybe we can monitor the chat if there's, I know that some people are chatting. Um, I think we can maybe start discussing the advantages and drawbacks of making blog posts BNFTs. For example, as you were saying, right, it would be compatible with marketplaces. This introduces a whole dynamic of economics. So, hey, like, should blog posts be put up for sale, resold? Maybe there's royalties associated with it. And we can kind of lean on shoulders of giants here, right? Because we have what's called the the NFT standard, as well as the catalog and the NFT metadata standard, which kind of help which would help the blog posts be standardized and easily consumable by other dApps on Flow without pretty much any work if we do our job correctly, right?
Yep.
Now, what are the disadvantages of making blog posts NFTs?
That's an interesting question.
I'm gonna make this pros. We can make this green and cons.
I think one of the cons is, although like definitely a smaller con, but it's sort of once you make any piece of code abide by a standard, you're sort of forcing it down a certain path. Yeah, like you said,
Yeah,
it's less flexibility in how it can be written.
yeah. There's less flexibility. Totally agree. Like standards have rules that need to be abided by. Um, there's also a maybe an economics and speculation aspect to consider,
Yep.
right? So if it is an NFT and people will start reselling posts, I mean, it can be both a pro and a con, right? Like um, this is something that we need to kind of discuss as a group. Uh, and I would say, yeah, I would say these are the two big ones,
Yeah.
honestly. Cool.
Raven put a that chat GDP thing. Raven asked the AI bot.
And what did the AI bot say?
It said the cons were the cost of creating it is high, technology is new, and the potential for fraud.
Yeah, okay. Brief aside, right? Uh, I think these like Chat GPT is just mind-blowing. I do fear that it's so confident and so professional sounding that it's going to be so easy for people to not realize when things are not true, you
So
know?
true, yeah. Like confidence does not equal correct.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. But yeah, I'm glad it's helping us brainstorm the Web3 blogging platform. Okay, the other question we should probably think about, and this is where we definitely want audience participation, is what should it be named?
Oh yeah. Everyone has
And
to
then,
everyone has to put one answer. That's the requirement. Even if it's the stupidest thing you've ever typed.
oh, and by the way, Jacob, I can share this
Oh, really?
with, I can share this in the chat. Is the chat going to be trolling? Might be, right?
Everyone here is a good person,
Yeah.
but
Okay. So let's make this collaborative, and we're gonna trust you. So join this live session, and you're free to modify and start adding things. But yeah,
all right,
so
so
maybe
what
here let's yeah go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say yeah, so right here, so everyone, if you can, just put one name and then put your name next to it if you want credit for it. And there may be a reward if we choose one of these. If we choose your name.
All right, I have to think hard. Jacob, this includes you, by the way.
I know I hate naming though. Oh my god. I'll write down the audience's one. Scribe.
Hmm,
Raven.
nice.
Fighter. Niagara flows. Hysterical.
um, subscribe.
Oh,
What do you guys
Floast.
think about? Oh, he's just obsessed, isn't he? Like he really is just obsessed. Did he say floats or floast?
Oh, Floast.
Really?
Yeah, Floast. I think.
Oh,
Yeah. River
okay. So
Post.
it's
I'm gonna try and come up with one that doesn't have flow in the name.
same. Yeah, same. Um, I like River Post, yeah. Or maybe we can, yeah, think about like the stream, like water running, like a stream of
Running.
consciousness.
Running. I put raindrop. Sometimes I've noticed that a lot of Web3 products, they all just have like random names that like has nothing to do with like the actual platform, but just like sound like lit.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm trying to think of.
Yeah.
Like hexagon or something, right?
Yeah, like yeah, exactly. Wave, I like that.
Ooh, nice.
Nice, Shane. Hexagon, Scribe. I think Scribe exists though, doesn't it?
Probably. I'm looking up synonyms of like
Now we
journal.
now we have a bunch of shapes: triangle, square. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think we should either go abstract or I was thinking also something like memento,
Oh, nice.
but
I like Memento. I like Raindrop. I like Wave.
I also like the flow ones. The reason why I don't want to use a flow one is because I think we should also, as a flow community, not make everything about flow. Like
Yeah,
ideally we create a product or a service or a tool or a DApp that is so awesome that anyone in Web3 wants to use it, regardless of the fact that it's built on flow.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so the naming competition is still gonna go for a couple episodes, I would say. Maybe what we can do is all agree on, it can even be ridiculous, but we can all agree on a project name, just so that we know what to refer to rather than mirror, which, you know, is not cool. So,
Yeah.
what is the project name? The temporary, which has a habit of becoming the permanent one.
It does.
Uh,
Yeah. Wait, so this is just like also a one word?
ooh, I like plume. It's like the feather.
Plume.
Yeah, this. Okay. Sweet.
Is that
Let's
it?
just let's just give a quick check.
Oh, it already exists. That's so sad.
And it's also like a federated blogging application, so it's decentralized and everything.
Oh, really?
Uh, yeah,
Alright, so we can't use Plume. That's so sad.
which also proves just that it was a great name.
Yeah.
So good job, 11. That was really good. Not that every other name wasn't good as well. Okay. Um, okay, let's park the name as people keep thinking about it. How about we start thinking about the architecture? I
Yeah,
think
let's
this
do
is
it.
the meaty part, which is what people came for. So
Yep.
what is the architecture? Um,
So I guess first of all, let's just start listing some of the languages that we wanted to use, right?
yes,
That we
yes.
were thinking about using.
I'm gonna zoom in here. Yep, exactly. So, but by the way, Jacob, feel free to also edit. Like,
Okay, cool. So we were definitely thinking of using Cadence, right? That's pretty obvious to everybody.
Yep.
Cadence being the, smart contract language, low blockchain,
Yep. And probably the best smart contract language
of
for
course.
a blockchain.
Yep, of course.
So we have Cadence, we have JavaScript, HTML, CSS for the front end. Now, here's where we can get a little creative in what this is. What framework do we want to use, right?
Yep. And the frameworks being, like, for example, React, Svelte, XJS,
Yep. Which Next.js is kind of,
like React basically.
yeah. Well, it's built on React, so it's like an application on. Actually, it's more like this, where React is the UI framework, and Next.js is the app framework that's built on React,
Yep.
or that uses React. Whereas Svelte is the UI library framework, and Svelte Kit is the equivalent of Next.js. So if you ever see Svelte Kit, it's because it's the way to build a Svelte app.
Oh, I see.
So it has things like routing, like different pages. It has things like um, server-side rendering, all the cool stuff that Next.js has is on the Svelte kit side, whereas Svelte is just a pure UI library or UI framework, which is similar to React, so that there's no app logic around it. Yeah.
And then I guess the third one is like this is kind of like we're not sure, so like not sure, but is like a sequel in the form of like Supabase, right?
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Um,
Um, right. Which probably more than SQL, let's just call it like a DB, right?
yeah.
Which could be SQL, and we could have, things like Supabase or um, and why are we talking about a DB in the first place, given that this is supposed to be an on-chain application? I think this is also worth
Oh yeah,
worth
true.
talking a little bit about.
Yeah, so the reason we were thinking about using a database is for smaller reactions or smaller things like upvotes. So when you think about it, when you're scrolling through, like what are we calling this? Memento. Let's say we're calling it Memento for now. Let's say you're scrolling through Memento, right? And you really like a post and you want to, upvote it. If you wanted to do this all on chain, right? You wanted to keep track of upvotes on chain every time you upvoted, you'd have to run a transaction, wait 30 seconds, and obviously, like, if you were to think about it on Twitter, you would not like something if you had to wait 30 seconds to like it, right? So instead, we can hook it up to a database where you click it and instantaneously, or I guess almost instantaneously, it's updating it in the database so you can just keep on scrolling just like you're doing on Twitter or whatever other social media. And on top of that, I think another really important aspect of databases is discoverability in smart contracts and actually specifically in Cadence, one of the I guess downsides of Cadence is that because things are not stored in a central ledger, they're stored in users' accounts. We don't have an easy way to discover all of them. Cadence is fantastic in discovering something from a specific account, but when we talk about all the accounts, we need better searchability, right? So that's where a
Yeah,
database comes in, where we can easily store tables of content and users posts and then query that and display them on the page.
exactly. Yes. Um, and similarly to the reason why we want to have a our own off-chain database, which is for stuff that we don't really that are not essential to the on-chain logic, right? Given that as long as the post is there and people can read it, it's not really an issue if people can't see how many upvotes it has, right? So even if we want to be Web3 purists, the fact that there's on-chain or sorry, off-chain logic and data, not only is it incredibly common throughout the Web3 space, but it's also, if done properly, shouldn't degrade the core experience. So I think our guiding rule should be for all things that are not essential, right? Um, what do you think, Jacob?
Yeah,
Did you
I,
agree with
I
this?
I totally agree. Yeah.
And then for essential things where, for example, Jacob was saying something around the fact that there's no central ledger, right? And everything is stored on people's accounts. That means that we need to kind of know which account has what, and if we want to create digests or, trending topics and stuff. One way to do it using on-chain data is tracking events. So everything on Flow emits or can emit events, right? So in our blogging contract, we would be able to um, kind of emit an event when a post is published. We could emit an event when a post is deleted, when a post is maybe tipped or something, right? And based on those events, we can update the UI. We can run even off-chain processes, right? If we're monitoring those events. Um, so so the way that you kind of keep track of state, given that the state on Flow is across all these different accounts, is by tracking events. Doing it manually is a bit of a pain. So what we can use is event indexers, right? Event indexers are services, and an example of one is Graphel. Let's just add it here. An event indexer is a service that literally does that. It keeps track of all of the events that are being emitted, and then exposes an API that we can query, or that we can, or even what's it called, a socket, like a socket connection, so that we can keep listening. And as soon as events are emitted, we just interact with the Graphel API and react to it.
Yep.
There's also there's not only, I think, and another one. I don't know if it's like a pure event indexer, but there's also Flowgraph, right? Um, which is maintained by the FlowScan team, and that's a GraphQL API for the chain, so you can query, accounts, and I think also events. I've only played a little bit with it. I haven't really dove too deep.
Yeah, neither have
But
I,
but but
honestly.
yeah. But this is a great opportunity to kind of just tinker with things, right? Like what we're trying to do is use this as also an opportunity to, yeah, we're gonna hit, like let's just be very upfront. Like we're gonna hit roadblocks, and it's part of the learning process to overcome them. And we're gonna also kind of hit points where we need to test out different solutions. So, um, I mean, this is part of the fun, right?
Yeah. I think like
Cool.
yeah, like I think to not get overwhelmed, like I think, even though there is a lot going on here, like this is a very step-by-step process. And I think the way that I envision this is, we start off, tinkering with JavaScript, HTML, CSS, choosing a framework and writing some cadence code. And then the
Hmm.
things down here, like a database and event indexers, these are add-ons that, we can discover later.
Yes,
So we don't really have to worry about this in the next coming lessons. We're going to mainly focus on the core part of the application.
exactly. Let's make this green like flow, and let's even label this like core. And whereas these ones, I mean, so, yeah, it may end up being core, but we'll just call them add-ons. Yeah, sweet.
Yep.
All right, so we should make a executive decision here.
I think how do you say this? View or View? View?
View.
View, yeah. I think View is definitely a no because I have literally no idea what that even is. I know that BRTech uses it,
Yeah.
so that is a plus. But um,
I've used it in the past. It's definitely better than React because it separates HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which is the only sane way to do things. Similar to Similar to I think you posted this in the wrong section. Hold on, let me update it. Okay.
True, true.
So it's actually like if we were to be purists and look at what framework respects the web the most, it would probably be Svelte, then Vue, then React.
Yep.
But this is not a. I think the choice that we're going to make today is not so much what is the best framework or what is the right framework, right? Every framework is right. React has a huge ecosystem. So it's definitely, I was reading a blog post the other day which the title was, Nobody Got Fired for Choosing React, right? Because it has millions of developers using it. And it's such a rich, yeah, just ecosystem that you don't really need to do much at all. I think the issue with React, and you know what? We could even choose to use React because it is the industry standard. I think the choice that we need to make is what is going to be the fastest, what tool is going to allow us to focus 100% on building and not so much fighting with the tool itself. I think this is the guiding principle for every choice that we're going to make when it comes to architecture, right? Is choosing the fastest tool and the most effective tool rather than what is theoretically the best tool. So, for example, if we do a poll, right, and we say, "Oh, everyone wants to use Next.js," then maybe we could consider using that Next.js. But yeah, I will kind of leave it to us to kind of think about and maybe discuss here as a group.
Yeah, I think even though um you know, BZ and a lot of others do have a point. Like for example, Lanford here is like the React, like Andre was saying, Titan. I think React and Next.js are very awesome, especially because
Mm,
the dev community is so active here. However, from my experience developing both of these, like I think we all know, I much prefer Svelte, and the reason for that is because the way that Svelte handles things is you don't need to learn things on top of, JavaScript,
mm,
HTML, and CSS. When you think, I actually saw a question in the chat. I think Bruce was asking CSS equals Tailwind. So Tailwind is essentially like an easier way of writing CSS, but they're both the same idea in that they're both like styling languages, um, meaning they make something blue or they make it green or make it larger, things like that. Svelte it's literally just JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Where with React you have to learn JSX on top of it to integrate these things into each other. So there's definitely a higher learning curve with React. Of course, the argument is, well, there's more learning resources and stuff like that, but I think the Svelte ecosystem is very easy to pick up and will reduce a lot of extra time that would have been
yes,
spent.
the only, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, right? Because everyone knows that I'm a big Svelte fan. The only devil's advocate that I would yeah, Raven's like just partying. The only devil's advocate comment that I would do is the Flow client library sometimes has build issues with Vite, which is the compiler used for both Svelte and Vue. Um,
Oh yeah.
so so maybe
Yeah, I actually I was testing that the other day just because I wanted to see, and I think like it does have some build issues, but like there are certain versions of FCL that work fine, and on
yeah,
top of that, like we sort of have worked through a ton of these problems on Float already. Um,
yeah,
that yeah, like
true.
when we were making Float, we ran into these like all the time, and poor Andre had to fix them all, but we sort of have figured that out already, so it's not like the biggest deal.
Yeah. And sorry, I was just looking through um, what Lamford showed, which is, of course, being this a blogging platform, it's going to be essential to have a good editor with which to write content, right? So maybe we can definitely add editor.js as a potential add-on. Uh, so this is the framework, and we also need uh, here editor, right?
Yep. And this is for like writing the markdown or the
Yes,
post, yeah.
exactly. This is for like the actual editing experience for people using the platform. So it should be somewhat pleasurable to write with. Otherwise, um, actually, here's a design decision that we could discuss. Another way that we could do this is making kind of standing on the shoulders of giants and seeing if things like HackMD have an API, right? And then once you finish writing your draft on HackMD, then you can mint it to Flow, and that becomes forever immortalized in the blockchain, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Like basically, we don't have to reinvent the wheel on making a good editor experience, and this is what I'm referring to, by the way, for people wondering. Um, it's a really cool. Okay. Here, let me show you
I want to try the full
HackMD.
power of HackMD.
Why isn't this loading? I think it's Twitter or Web3 Twitter. Not found. Great. Hold on. Let me just find it in my other tab. HackMD. Here it is. Okay. So this is the awesome tutorial that I've been working on. No, I'm just kidding. But I've really stress tested this tool by writing this tutorial because, as you can see, it's very, very long. And it has a really nice experience because you have the markdown on one end, you have the preview on the other end, right? And then you can publish it. And here it has some cool options like import, export. So maybe in the future, once our Memento slash NameTBD platform is finished, we could actually work with HackMD to have an option to mint here, right? Like export
Yeah.
mint, and it'll send it to our platform to mint.
Yeah.
But I would say for the learning experience and to keep things self-contained, we will bake the editor in. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Okay,
I also think we should, yeah, bake it in. It could be cool if we
sweet.
like just tested it out.
Yeah, sweet. All right. Um, should we start thinking a little bit about very high level, like what the contracts will look like or what the contract will look like?
Yeah. Um, sure, yeah. Let's do that. So from what I'm thinking, I guess I'll make a little box here, almost like this is the smart contract.
Yep.
Um, so of course there's a lot of questions. The first one is, will this be an NFT? I think we should certainly think about that. But I think the one thing we definitely know is that there's going to be some sort of asset in here that represents the post, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this is going to be a resource, right? So I guess I'll label this as a resource. Um, this is going to be a resource that gets stored in users' accounts. And inside here, we'll have things like an author, like who made it, the content. But this is also a big question, right? Because I think that one of the really cool things about Flow is that, storage costs, as Andrea was saying, is not too expensive. So we actually have a really interesting opportunity here where we can literally store the content directly in like a string variable. So that's option one, where we could store it as a string. The other
Mm-hmm.
option is we store it as like IPFS CID, where we upload it just like on Mirror, where we upload it to Arweave or we uploaded it to some IPFS protocol, and we then link the that IPFS CID in our post. So I'm not too sure what the best case scenario is. Wondering if anyone has any thoughts on that.
So Cheetah says maybe IPFS will be good. And Lamford asks, what about the images, which is a fair call out, right? Like
Yep.
if we start storing base 64 encoded images on chain, it could get pretty big pretty quick.
Definitely.
So one way that we could look at it actually is, and this is also a philosophical question, right? Like if we go back to the question, what is essential? Maybe what we could do is have a hybrid option. And again, I'm not saying that we should do this, right? I'm just raising this up for discussion. We could have a hybrid option where the body, which is really just text, can be on chain. And anytime there's rich media throughout the post, that will be uploaded to IPFS by the front end, and then the corresponding hash will be saved in the body of the content. So that's one way to do it, right? So we have like best of both worlds. We have some of the content, or like the text, which theoretically is the core of the content, be on chain, and everything else being still on chain but on a different chain and being decentralized. The third option, which you were talking about regarding Arweave and stuff, is everything that we create turns into a big JSON object, right? Which we could even start kind of. Let me turn this into a post, into code, and it could be like, oh, metadata, right? And it could be something like author. It could be something like published at, or timestamp, etc. Right?
Yep.
And then we could have content, and this could be something like title. This could be body. And the thing is, I think individual images will still need to be saved separately, right?
Yeah, I think one of the other interesting things to think about is, let's say we do have a post and we're editing it a lot. One of the cool things about having the text be directly on chain is that, when we update it, we're just simply changing this variable, so we're not really wasting that much storage. But I think that every time that we would edit or publish to IPFS, um, we're creating like a new what's that called?
Like object
Yeah,
or
we're creating a
pin.
new object on IPFS. Yeah,
Yeah, we're pinning a new resource on IPFS.
exactly. Every single time we edit it. So I think this hybrid approach, and like what Lamford is describing is we can sort of store all the content here, and every time we upload an image, we simply just upload the image and then store the CID back in the string, and it
Yeah,
just gets saved right here, and we just render this on the front end.
sweet. So basically, the post will have author. It will have content, which maybe we use like body, which will be the actual. Oh, okay, cool. Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Like maybe we call this body and title just to stay a bit more standard.
Yep.
Uh, Date created, which will be, yeah, like
Also,
a
authors should be
timestamp.
an array. Like could be multiple
Yes.
authors.
Yes. Yes. Totally. Do we also want to include things here like percentage? So maybe rather than an array of addresses, it could actually be an array of either objects or something where the here let me change this. It could be, for example, uh, author, which could be 0x whatever, right? Then we have percentage or contribution, which will be like a maybe a 0 to 1,
Oh yeah.
and and like, and we could even have multiple aspects. So you could have like a author. Oh, we could have a struct with different types of contributions. So contribution struct. Sorry, I'm just like hashing it out here, but
No, I love it.
where it's not just. I think we should think broader, and maybe we're scope creeping a little, right? But we have a contribution struct, which can be things like author, right? And there can be more than one author, right? Editor, so people that review, maybe artist for the media.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, I like that. That's cool. That's really cool. And you can have multiple of those, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe yeah, I like that. So we'll have the post here, and then we'll also have like what is it called? Like a an enum,
Yeah.
and we'll just put that right here. And we'll call this yeah.
Contribution types.
Yeah. And then we'll put that right here.
Well, no, wait, hold on. The enum is just it just outlines what possible contribution types there are, right? The authors a should be an object containing the actual author,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
the contribution, which will be part of the enum, right?
I like that. Yeah.
Um, author or something, right? Or one or whatever it is. And then we have yeah, or are we overcomplicating it?
No, no, I mean it actually will end up looking something like this anyway. And then contribution
Yeah,
being
exactly.
type. Yeah.
Exactly. And then it would be cool to have like a contribution amount or contribution percentage. And this can be decided by whoever publishes the post, right?
Yeah.
Where even though there's different types, right? You can decide, oh, this person here, this co-author had like 30% of the has 30% of the whatchamacallit,
Like
the credit.
ownership. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And whereas this other artist, he made a really cool banner for this post. So he has, let's say, 0.05, so 5%, right? Um, yeah, I think
I
that
like
could be
it.
pretty cool.
I like it. And then I guess the other really important part is another resource down here that's a post collection. And this is
Hmm.
where we're going to store all of our posts. So let's make a little rectangle here, and we're gonna have some variable inside of here that is a basically a dictionary of posts here.
Yeah. Raven has some really good inputs, such as we want a royalty license. Um, so I don't know if we want to get like too specific with each author and contribution having its own license, so that each part of the blog post has a different license. That might be a little bit too complicated for people like reading it and trying to decide what to do with the post. But maybe the license could be at the post level. What do you
Yep.
think, Raven? Yes, and definitely Lamford, the author can play multiple roles. You can definitely have an author be both like a artist and an author. I think what we can do is have author be the default, right? So anything that's not been specified otherwise, the author has done, right? So author is like a catch-all. So if you are an author of the post, then you are the kind of owner of the whole thing. Um,
Yep.
yeah. I'm sorry, I'm like thinking as I speak, so that's why I trail off sometimes. Let me scroll down to where you're adding the post collection.
Yeah, so this is just like the post collection, so you can store all your posts. You have a deposit function, a withdraw function if you wanted to. I don't know, I guess maybe this is like up for grabs, like we want to be able to withdraw or like simply maybe even like just like destroy or something. Also like an edit function maybe and
Yeah.
get IDs. These are all just like example functions we could have inside of our post collection. Um,
Yeah, I think actually this part here is where we start going back to this question up there, right? Which is,
Oh yeah.
are our posts going to be NFTs? I feel like these cons are not enough to justify not doing it. What do you guys think?
I'm honestly curious to see everyone's opinion here.
Yeah. So to summarize, the question is, should posts be NFTs?
Oh great. Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
We got a poll here.
Ooh,
What do people think?
I think it's looking like it's
We got 4 upvotes so far for yes. 5.
so let's think a little bit about the authors. Maybe these contribution types need to be changed, right? So everyone is an author in some capacity. We just need to be like the contribution could be, yeah, like I would say let's needs more thinking because I also don't want to overcomplicate things too much. I think
Yeah.
this is already really flexible where every author, so there's more than one author, right? And each author um, has I don't know if hmm,
I think this is the base for sure.
oh, yeah, for sure, yeah. I'm just thinking author. Do we want the contract to have a base object or a base resource author, which is cross posts, and then each post has a collection of authors of author basically like this contribution, right, is very specific to the post.
Yeah.
But as an author, I will have multiple posts. I will, there's different things that I can do across posts as an author. So do we want to have a base author type that is basically the profile through which people post? And what we put here is an object that contains the author plus a contribution, right? So this is not really an array of authors, it's more of an array of author plus contributions. But yeah, we can think about it.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, it's almost like you're thinking of like a profile, like an
Exactly.
author's profile. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I also think that honestly, the more I think about this, like I think it'd be really cool if we didn't restrict contribution types because what if
True.
someone wanted to get creative and call themselves like a wizard or something? Like, oh,
True.
like I know that sounds really stupid, but like, oh, like I was the wizard of this article. Like
So
people
so
get
you're
creative
thinking
with
more
it.
like a yeah, so you're thinking more like an open string that people can
Yeah, exactly. And I think, of course, we can also support profiles where, like, you log in and your title on the platform is mage or some you want to call yourself some awesome title,
hmm
right? And then that gets appended. But also, for each post you make, you can add like very creative contribution types. And of course, we can
Yeah,
make
totally.
suggestion. Like we can suggest author, editor, but we can also put custom that you just put your own.
Yep. Sounds great. Okay. So we're already over time. Uh let's think about what we should do as a group. Let's do like goals for week one. Maybe we kick off a scaffold, right? Create and create a repo that people can access and contribute to. And let me move here. What else?
Oh, sorry, I'm just reading the chat. There's actually a bunch of cool ideas in the chat here.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, BZ, by the way, is we should definitely have original owner. Because if this NFT gets transferred, it would be great
True.
to know who published it. Yeah.
Similar to how Float does, right?
Yeah.
You have like the creator and the owner.
Yeah, and that way, like, if you sell it, like, if people continue to tip or don't, of course, I don't know if this is going to be a mechanic, but if people continue to donate or tip to it, like, it'll get tipped to the current owner, but you can always see who originally published it. And
Hmm.
maybe the original owner is, like, not an address, but, like, an author, so we can see all that.
Yeah. Sweet. Um, yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and we could, like, yeah, like you're saying, Darth Nubius, I think another cool thing, because I like to make everything gamified, but it'd be cool if, like, if something had a lot of upvotes, we also made that web page, like, super, like, slick, or, like, we added, like, a bunch of, um, like, cool effects to that. Like, oh, you have more than 100 upvotes, like, we make that page look really cool or something. And the more upvotes you get, the more cool the page looks. Like, there's a bunch of, like, oh, like, you're on fire emojis if yeah, like, it looks
Mm,
shinier or something, or, like, the border looks shinier if the more
yeah,
cool you're doing. Yeah,
yeah, I like it.
I guess I'll. Oh, I love there's ocean. Nice. I'll put, like, a random ideas. Benford says, "Oh, I think I should write a fund split tool for the authors and mentors with the royalty of articles." Yes.
Oh, you know what?
But
Oh, Lanford, he came up with an even better name than Memento.
what?
So Momento in Italian means moment, which so we initially said memento, which is like a memory or something,
Yeah.
right? But momento means moment,
Oh,
like instant or something.
I like
So
that.
so we could potentially call it memento,
I like that a
uh,
lot.
which is also a lot more original because there's a movie called Memento. So SEO will be terrible.
So it is. Oh, was that a mistake, Lamford? Well, good mistake.
Okay, so let's definitely use it as at least the working name, okay?
Yeah, memento.
So, Memento. Okay, cool. Um, is there a strike through? Just yeah. Okay. Um,
All
who
right,
who
cool.
is this? All right, cool. So let's go back to the goals for one. So we're gonna kick off a scaffold. What we can do, Jacob, is maybe we can decide on the scaffold. We'll think about it a little bit more and then kick off a scaffold in either Svelte or Next.js. Okay.
Yep.
Um, Part of the reason I'm thinking that Next.js is that Chase from the FCL team has built a pretty cool scaffold that will make it easier. It's in React, uh, but it might make it easier. It does have CSS modules. I mean, JSX is just so bad, but
Yeah, it
yeah,
is.
I think we need to think about it. But
Svelte.
I
Svelte.
I think we're leaning towards Svelte, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, leaning towards Svelte.
Svelte.
It'll
Then,
also actually be a good opportunity to create a cool scaffold for Svelte,
yeah,
which is even
also
more advanced.
will
Yeah.
help people learn Svelte because we've been meaning to do, like, a Svelte course too.
Yeah, yeah. Sweet, 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 sweet. Okay, awesome. Then we'll create a repo with a scaffold, and maybe we can keep thinking more about the contract. Continue drafting out the contract. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
As goals for week one. I mean, this is not a sprint, right? It's going to take a while. But and I think actually the more that we go at a certain pace, I think the more people can catch up and the more people can contribute without kind of us being too fast that people don't really know where to tap in, right? So if we use
Agree.
these meetings effectively and kind of set the stage for, oh, this is what we're going to work on this week, and maybe people can volunteer to take that on. I think it's going to make it a lot easier for people to contribute.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
I'm pretty down for that. Okay, sweet. All right. I think that's a good enough goal for week one.
Yep.
If anyone wants to contribute, if you want to contribute, reach out in Emerald DAO or Emerald Academy Discords, right?
Yep.
And should we have a working, like a channel on either or around this new tool?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a great idea. Let me make a
I
I'll
think it
make
should be in Emerald DAO, no?
an Emerald that. Yeah, we can make it in the other Discord if we want.
Or here, yeah. It's just that given that this hopefully will also become like a tool. I don't know. You think about it. I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, I'll think of, yeah, that's a good question actually. I'll think about that one. But I will make a channel for that.
Sweet. Okay, cool. And then we can regroup there and see you next week, same time, same place, and we can continue.
Perfect. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. I hope this was helpful. And if you have any feedback, also let us know. Taking a screenshot here.
So BZ wants a float. Should we have a float, or should we have a float for people who join every
Um,
single one?
yeah, I think we should question. Maybe okay, here's what I can do. I can use like the in Discord command to get a list of everyone's addresses just to make sure like I know who is here.
Mm-hmm.
And then if yeah, like whoever like continues to come, we can give them a float for participating.
Sweet. I like that.
Okay, perfect. That way there's like one like awesome float that people can own.
Yes.
Okay,
I like
got
it.
it. So I took a snapshot of everyone who was here.
Sweet.
Alrighty.
Gotta love Emerald Bot, right?
Love Emerald Bot. Yes. Tools of the future. All right, everyone. Thanks for coming. See you next Tuesday. Or also always remember that we have developer office hours on Thursday, at this time. So or at 11 a.m. Eastern. So, make sure to stop by if you have any questions or if you want to continue, talking about this and throwing suggestions around. Come to that event that I just put in the chat. All right. Peace, everyone.
All
Bye.
right. Bye, everyone. Bye.